started off with modes of entry into international business. Last class, we have covered the first three entries. Number one is exporting, number two is licensing, and number three is franchising. Moving on to the next three modes of entry into international business. The fourth one is called as contract manufacturing. So it is used in situation when one company arranges for another company entirely in a different country to manufacture its products. Okay. In simple, it is called as, guys, outsourcing. Okay. What do you outsource? Something which you want to focus on your core competencies, other little functions or other kind of activities you would want some other company to take up. Okay, so today in this subject, when you're talking about international business, so I'm going to outsource one of my functionality or activity or even the manufacture of a product to a company which is situated in another country. Okay, so because we are talking about IV, it has to be across a country's border, right? So contract manufacturing is when one company in, let's say, in USA is outsourcing its customer support activities to a company in India. I repeat, when a company in US is outsourcing its customer support activity to take up to a company which is situated in India. Okay, that concept is called as contract manufacturing. In otherwise, when it talks about manufacturing of a product or production of a particular product or a unit, the company will provide, that is the home country or the owner of that product is going to provide you with all the specifications, okay, if applicable, also with the materials required for the production process. Now, in case USA finds that to produce a particular product, it is more cost effective if it is produced in India. Okay, the very concept, if you can remember, when our government started a couple of years back the Make in India concept, okay, which means that our government was open to all the other economies so that they would give us the manufacturing job, right? Because we are abundant in labor, right? So that way, when you manufacture in our country, the cost of production will automatically come down. Yes or no? So that's the concept which is applied over here, contract manufacturing. Okay, so the other country is going to provide us all the materials, how it has to be manufactured, the size, the shape, the quality, the quantity, right? The branding, the packaging, everything is already told or specified, and we only do the manufacturing part. Is that clear? So that way we also get a commission for manufacturing and the company will get a higher percentage of profit. Why? Because they are cutting down the cost of production. Okay, if the same product without the option of contract manufacturing, if they produce it in the home country, let's say the cost of per unit comes up to 100 rupees. Okay, but when they start producing it in India, it comes up to 75 rupees only. So how much amount of money they can save with just one product? Okay, so once they completely shift the manufacturing process to another country, it's a new way of entering into international business. So what are the merits? Number one is cost savings. As I just told you the benefit, right? It is cost savings. That means they used to incur 100 rupees. Now here when they manufacture in India, it is only coming to the cost of 75 rupees, right? So that way it is cost efficient. The second benefit is mutual benefit. Now, here we are talking about not just the company which is entering into a foreign market is benefited, but the country which is receiving the production process or the project, that is India, What is the kind of help that we are getting? How are we benefiting by, this company entering into our country? We are getting employment opportunities. Isn't that good? Our standards of living will increase because when there is income, there is also an improvement in the standard of living. And we can also get to learn new technologies, new production process, etc. Okay, so it's a mutual benefit, not only for the company, but also for the country that is acting as a outsource is also benefited. So it's a mutual benefit. Both the countries are benefited, home country as well as host country. Third, focus. That is, as I told, there are certain things that the company can manage by itself. Okay, so by outsourcing the other activities, it can try and focus what its real strength is. Right, the strength can be administration, financing, marketing. The company is good at it, they can focus on those activities. Manufacturing, it is most costly in our country, therefore it will shift the focus of manufacturing into another country. What are the demerits of contract manufacturing? Lack of control. Now, of course, because the manufacturing unit is separately situated in another country, you really cannot control or connect with that organization so frequently or efficiently, right? The control will somewhere loosen out. And intellectual property laws. You remember we discussed this intellectual property laws in licensing as well as franchising, right? It happens even in outsourcing as well, because when I'm telling them how to manufacture, what are the specifications, how to do things, don't you think that company can leak out that information and start duplicating the products? Yes or no? Then automatically there'll be competitors rising in that country. So another demerit or disadvantage is intellectual property loss, that is the product design, right, etc. So cutting cost is the number one reason for companies outsource. So we all know what is the number one reasons why big companies outsource certain activities, plainly to cut down cost. But there are also several other reasons why companies outsource to our country, India. 57% of business outsource to enable focus on their core business. As I just told you now, right? If their core business is in marketing or in financial structure, they'll focus only on that core business area. If they have 10 product lines and in that 8 of them are doing really well for them, they'll just concentrate on that or focus on that. The rest two product lines, they will outsource it. Another reason, business outsource to solve capacity issues. That means that country does not have the capacity to, it can be capacity in terms of human resource, capacity in terms of capital or technology. It can be any types of capacity, right? It cannot solve up to that large extent of capacity. Okay, so a part of it will be shifted to outsourcing. Next, 31% of outsource to enhance service quality. If I know a particular country is extremely, strong in certain specific quality, like let's say hotel management business or in marketing, etc., a specific unique quality that this particular country or a company in that country is really significant in its performance, right? Then I will outsource my business to that company so that the quality of my services improved. Okay, the quality of my services enhanced. So there are many companies in India that work on outsourcing business. Okay, the top two companies are, number one is Genpact and the number 2 business in India is Tata Consultancy Services. Okay, so these are the two majoring business that works on outsourcing. Moving on to the fifth mode of entry called as turnkey projects, right? The concept lies in that word turnkey itself. Now, what is it? It is a contract under which a firm agrees to fully design, construct, and equip a manufacturing business or a service facility and turn the project over to the purchaser when it's ready for operation for a remuneration. So, in simple, now let's say I want to build a airport. Okay, my company is making all the efforts in building a airport. Now, in order for me to build an airport, it's not a cakewalk, right? There have to be a lot of things that I need to consider, right? In terms of the square feet of the land, or the space for passengers or luggage, or there's so many technical things that you need to consider when you're constructing an airport, right? So instead of me taking all the headache of understanding the logistics behind the construction, I hand over the construction of airport project to a construction company. Okay, that means who are specialized in constructing airports. Okay, so I find a company or I find a partner who is exclusively strong in constructing of airports. So what do? I give him the project of building the airport. So what this company does, company is going to design, it's going to construct everything from the entry to exit to passenger to luggage, emergency, where the planes have to, rest, where the planes have to pick up the passengers, everything. Everything is neatly designed and constructed. It is ready to be operated. Okay, it can be ready to, start the airport. In such situation, the company, when it completes the construction, 100%, it hands over the project back to me. You understand? The company is simply going to construct the airport, okay, with all the required facilities, all the required materials, everything. It's just be ready to operate. Once it is ready to be operated, it will give the keys to me back because I am the owner of the airport. They are just the constructors. So it will hand over the key to me and I will begin to operate the airport. It applies same. It applies to dams. It applies to construction of metro. It applies to construction of power plant, factories, anything, malls, anything. Okay, that concept is called as turnkey project. I hand over the project to somebody to construct. They complete the construction and give over the project to me. Okay, and of course they're going to do it for a remuneration, right? So infrastructure can be power plant, airport, metros on a turnkey basis. Okay, so they hand over the key to me and then I pay them the remuneration and then I start operating the infrastructure. What are the major merits? The contractor has a fixed price. Okay, if I am a turnkey project company, okay, then I get a project saying I need to build a mall or I need to build a power plant or an airport. So I fix a price based on the required raw materials or all the required materials. I fix a price and that cannot be negotiated. It's fixed and it's final. Okay, so that is number one merit. Number two is less risky because I am giving this job of construction to a person who is extremely, strong in his work. Okay, the company is an expert in a particular way of construction. So I do not have to worry about what if the company does not do a good job, or what if the company does any kind of damage. Okay, so all such things can be avoided. It is less risky. What are the demerits? It creates competitor. So again, there is a possibility that people might replicate the idea of construction, right? So that can be one of the demerit. And politicized process. That's the meaning where so construction of an airport, dam, or any other things is not very easy, right? There's a lot of legal procedure that has to documentation, or the amount of capital, license, permission. There is a lot of process that goes behind it. Okay, so that is another demerit. What if the government intervenes, or what if they don't allow, etc., the permissions or any taxes, etc.? That's called as politicized process. What if political parties or what if government intervenes between these projects, right? So these are the just few examples, airports as well as the dams to be built in order under a construction called as turnkey projects. The next one we have is foreign direct investment. I'm sure all of you have heard this word, right? FDI. It is an investment made by a firm or an individual in one country into business interests located in another country, right? So me sitting here in India, I can invest my money in a company that is abroad. Okay, and now what is the purpose and why is it called as FDI is it establishes a lasting interest. Now, why am I putting rupees 5 crore into a business that is located in Germany? Because I want a voting power in that firm, or I want to control that firm, control that company sitting right here in India. Is that clear to all of you? An investment in a foreign firm is considered as FDI if it establishes a lasting interest. It's not like just like a small returns of 1 to 2 shares. No, I'm looking at a long term. Now, FDI, I'm not talking about 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees FDI. No, no. FDI is a huge sum of amount or investment. Okay, we are talking about a very large cap of amount. And when you're putting such a huge investment, you definitely will have a larger interest, not just in the small returns of the company, but in the voting rights. Why am I stressing of voting rights? Because if I have voting rights in the company, I can make own decisions. Okay, I sit in the power of decision making of the company. So an investor obtains at least 10% of the voting power in a firm. You got it? So FDI is not just to earn a small dividend on the share. No, it's a huge sum of money on which you're trying to gain a voting power. Now, in India, Gujarat was the top recipient of FDI among states. So, among all the states in India, it was Gujarat, thanks to the Modi government, that it received a huge sum of amount through FDI process with 37% share of total FDI equity inflows. Then it was followed up by the second state, Maharashtra, and then Karnataka with 27% and 13% respectively. So here the statistics is given in terms of percentage as to how much of FDI was allowed or how much FDI was invited in these various projects in the states. The first stands Gujarat, and then Maharashtra, and then Karnataka. What are the merits? Raising level of investment. As we know that our country has a significant shortage of capital, of finance, through FDI, that problem is solved. And then we have employment generation. As we know, we have brilliant ideas about companies or about business. But what do we lack? Money. So once we start off a project or a business, can it run by its own just because it has money or just because it has got FDI? No, it needs people, right? It needs people. Companies run by people. Therefore, it generates employment opportunities. Okay, that's another great benefit of having FDI. What are the demerits? Displacement of local business. This is commonly observed when there's large business establishing in a particular locality or in a country. The local businesses within India might lose the market. You remember, or can you recall the company called as Walmart, right? It is one of the what you call as a supermarket, or what today we have as Reliance Supermarket or Metro Supermarket, Spas Hypercity. Do you guys can recall all such supermarkets in the abroad or in the US? There's a big company called as Walmart. Okay, it's a supermarket. Now, if that company is super successful in the US. Now, that company wanted to enter in the form of international business to India. Okay, it wanted to enter. But then our government did not allow or was against it. Why? The company can enter and the company will definitely be successful in India. But the problem is, what about the local businesses in India? Yes or no? They will lose the market, they will lose the profits, or they will lose the customers. How will our Indian shops or businesses can be successful if such giant supermarkets enter? So that is the one of the major disadvantages, displacement of local business. And then profit repatriation. Now, every time you hear a budget and the tax slabs that is changed every year, don't you think the foreign companies always have a higher tax rate, right? If Indian companies have 30%, or the foreign companies will have 40% tax rate, right? So another demerit is for FDI, profit repatriation. A lot of amount goes in taxes, uh, or import duties or export duties, etc. Okay, so the repatriation of profit is a little bit longer process in terms of FDI. So the IT sector in India. So which sector has received the highest FDI share is the IT sector. Okay, amounting to over 1.8 trillion Indian rupees in the fiscal year 2021 as of December 2020. Okay, so for the year 2021, right, IT sector, that is information technology sector, has been receiving the foreign direct inflow. Okay, so the next comes infrastructure, and next comes infrastructure comes amounting to 500 billion rupees. Okay, and then the third one I think stands service sector. All right, the first is information technology, and then we have infrastructure, and I then think it comes up to service industry. If you can look at that picture, it's very much simple, as we call the FDI concept. People are willing to invest into the sectors of India or various industries in India, right? IT, pharmaceutical, infrastructure, service, or manufacturing, etc. Okay, so today we have discussed another three modes of entry. We started with exporting, licensing, franchising, and today we learned about what are the next three topics that we learned about. We started with outsourcing or contract manufacturing. Then we moved on to turnkey projects. And then the sixth one is FDI, foreign direct investment. So next class we'll look forward to another two more modes of entry into international business.